4, 3, 2, 1.
So, funny story. My computer just hard crashed. I suddenly saw it jittered, like it was having some issues. The weird part is that Streamlabs OBS, which I use to broadcast, was telling me my CPU usage was extremely low. It wasn't showing any drop frames. But yeah, it outright crashed. I actually wonder if it had something to do with BattleNet. I noticed upon restart that BattleNet has installed an update to Hearthstone. So maybe it's something that, I said, the Activision Blizzard, or potentially, Uncle Jeff did not like, and they sent the Omnics out to get me. I don't know what it is. But it looks like someone is sending reinforcement, please, by showing us where the reinforcements are generally located from.
My webcam's not working.
That's okay. Right now, the millions and millions of viewers are currently scouring Metro Vancouver and Google Maps, trying to sort of piece together whereabouts you happen to reside. I mean, it's narrowed
it's basically where Chico Chicken is. So
yeah, just ask for Sam. Everyone knows.
Yeah, everyone knows.
Yeah.
You get 10% off.
That's good. I mean, everyone needs a deal.
Let me log off one more time and try this again.
Cool. This is like some great production value we've got here, RSP. It's why we need you, our listeners, to drop all of those Prime subs that you have in Twitch our way, any bits you've got, because you got to upgrade the internets. My goodness. So what was I talking about before everything went crazy? Timid play. That's right. I feel that the Vancouver Titans are just in a weird sort of mental space right now, and that's on top of all the issues that they're having to face. They have the difficulty of coming in the middle of a season. It's an entirely new team. I mean, short of a handful of players that know each other and have played together, they're now playing an entirely different tactics, an entirely different meta, with an entirely different group of players to go along with them. And on top of that, there's now this sort of mental stress that's adding up, and I am not going to presume to have the inside scoop on what's going on in their heads, but I can't imagine these young men are enjoying things, and it's tough when they obviously do see what's going on in Titans Court. Some of the conversation there is like complete table flipping. Some of the conversation that goes on in social, it's tough times. So, thankfully, Sam is back and has his camera on, wearing his Portland Trailblazers hat. Are you impressed that I know that?
I'm pretty well. I've been talking to you about it for over a year, so.
Yeah, but the fact that I know the logo.
Yeah, I guess that's like an 8 out of 10 impressive. Yeah. I was just doing my imitation of Al production, so.
Okay, so actually, did you watch much of the production today?
Not so much today. I caught the Soul fiasco when Jake had to stop breathing.
I mean, that was unreal. Like at first I thought it was my stream, but I'm like, why is it that ZP, because I'm Canadian, ZP is like talking funny, and Jake seems to be fine. Like, that's weird that my stream would have an issue with just that sort of half of the broadcast, and then outright completely gone. Peace be with him. Only to have Uber jump in and have the same problems. No, I thought Jake did really well, and the funny thing is Jake like owned that. Like, it happened. He dealt with it. And I found he actually struggled more after the match was done, when production's like, whatever they're doing in his ear, telling him talk for this long. And it's obvious that he's like, okay, yeah, but I don't know how much more I have to say, and I need someone to play off the conversation with me.
He's a pro player, right? So when the stakes are the highest, that's when he performs the highest, and I think you could see him clutch up there.
Oh god, yeah, it was phenomenal. Like I followed him. The RSP account followed Jake because of that performance. We don't follow just anyone. We only follow, the top talent around the scene. It's one of the reasons why RSP doesn't follow you or I.
It's true.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the stream today was weird. Like I was watching that Toronto Defiant LA Valiant match where it's like, oh, the Defiant have a chance, they lost. What? Like it was like burping where it went like back in time, and I'm like, okay, trying to catch up the stream. It's like, okay, it's apparently I'm not far behind. And then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna jump. You just don't need to see this. Like the Defiant went into a team fight on Well and they lost. Like it's like, oh, they're gonna go in and suddenly we're on Lighthouse. Like what? What's going on? Like I don't quite get it. And then it looked like they were going to win on Lighthouse. And then it's like they're talking about how the Toronto Defiant weren't able to pull off the clean sweep and the Valiant sneaked through. It's like,
yeah, well, I just tweeted an hour ago, 3 things in life are true: death, taxes, and Defiant Game 5 match losses.
Yeah, and what was my reply to you?
I didn't read it.
I know, you probably have me on block. I am not so sure that's going to hold true come Friday morning when our Vancouver Titans take on the Toronto Defiant at 10 a.m. So for those of us who are still working and work more traditional hours, this is going to be a tough thing to deal with. If you do have the opportunity to work from home, then it's sort of that, judgment call. Do I work? Do I watch? Do I watch and work? Do I work and watch? I mean, I get it. There's so many matches that they need to throw into the mix, but 10 a.m., like...
I mean, average view times, it's going to be less than an hour or so.
True. I mean, Schmidtstorm sort of, brings it up in chat. Do we really want to watch that match, though? Okay. It was tough today. Like if you were a part of RSP Court and you were in voice comms, you could probably hear the emotion in my voice where it's like, yeah, this is tough, and it's I'm going to find an opportunity to watch. 2 reasons. 1, podcast quality tends to improve when I actually saw what I'm about to talk about. But 2. Whether it's right or wrong, and whether it's, biased optimism, I have faith that at some point in time, things will begin to turn around with this particular roster. It's just, I have to accept that might be next season. It might not be this week. And the Toronto Defiant arguably looked good for very, sparse moments of the 5-map match they had against the Valiant. It was like there was 2 sides of the Defiant. They looked really good, and they looked really bad. Whereas the Vancouver Titans, they have these sort of sparkles and these flashes, but then find a way to, secure defeat from a moment of victory. It's difficult.
I guess time will tell, but right now, I think the Titans' mentals are a little bit boomed.
Oh yeah.
It's tough to watch. It's you feel for the guys.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I was sort of getting at earlier, is that you can tell that they're almost now not wanting to make mistakes, right? Like I would much prefer, and I sort of said this in voice comms, I would prefer that if they were sort of just outright aggression and made mistakes trying to make big plays, okay, arguably that's not something you want to see happen too frequently, but if it's going to be a loss, I'd rather it be that type of front foot loss. But we've talked about this on episode as to last season's Vancouver Titans. When was it that we found that the Titans started to go and fall apart? It's when they lost that edge that they played with, the aggression and the aggressive style. Anytime that they played a team that could bring the aggression better than them, case in point, the San Francisco Shock, that roster struggled with it. So, if that roster struggled with it, this roster, it's a completely different roster, but arguably in a much tougher position.
Yeah, and I think you can see, even though we're pure speculating here because we can't see their faces, we can't see how they're reacting, we're not in comms. Like you can see that they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves, and it's unfair. I think you've heard the word unfair used a couple times, and even casters and Rainforest talk about it. but like I think a lot of them have a lot to prove, and they're not really on the right stage to prove it. Some of them want to prove that they are Al-worthy players. Some of them want to represent their countries. You know, KSA is the first Saudi Arabian Overwatch Pro League player. He's got a lot on his shoulders. He doesn't want to just be there, right? He's not accepting like, oh, he's a filler mid-season, stopgap. That's not what you want to see out of these players. And Shredlock, love him or hate him, like he puts a lot of pressure on himself to perform. He's Canadian kid. He's playing for Canadian City, and I think it's really up to the coaching staff. The biggest challenge right now is just to get them to relax a bit, right? Like it's not going to get worse than 3-0s. It's not going to get worse than the way we've been losing, right? So I think they need to find their fun back. They even if they continue to lose, like let's find ways to have fun, right? Yeah. Like I think today's match, because it's brand new and point. Chips is a good example of that, right? Like, it's very debatable whether he's Owl level or he'd be a mainstay if not for his personal branding or whatever you want to call it. Different people have different theories, but he's embraced that, right? Like people call him a Doom one trick, fine, so be it, right? And so when he comes out and performs, he's not taking himself so seriously, right? Like, was he great? Not really. Did he fall off a cliff? Maybe. Did he also get some good kills? Yeah. And like I think you just have to kind of embrace that side that right now it's not sexy to be a Vancouver Titan. Yeah. But these are, at the end of the day, they're still really, really good Overwatch players, and they're underperforming, not to an Owl standard, to I believe their standard. I think they're mentally tilting.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at like Shredlock, I think is a great example. He takes a lot of heat, and I mean, so equally does someone like Suna. We've sort of seen these arguments. I mean, we're not blind to the sort of different sides of where the problem may lay, but you can tell that he takes these losses seriously, like each and every one. Like he owns it. He comes into Titans court. He shows that on Twitter, where it must be difficult. Like I was actually sort of talking to my wife, of all people, because she's a huge Overwatch fan. I mean, she I think knows who Reinhardt is. That's maybe it. But I had sort of joked with her. I'm like, I wonder if Team RSP needs to step up to get its butts handed to them, just so that the Vancouver Titans team can sort of taste victory, even if they get to pub stomp us. Just that they need to have fun. And that, I think, sort of resonates with what you had sort of talked about earlier, where they have that opportunity to realize what it's like to win, to have a good time. Like in that first week, sure, Washington Justice, first match, you could tell they came out with like an edge. They had this chip on their shoulder. They were playing really well. And then progressively, as things have started to wane, and they're obviously facing much better competition too, yeah, it is mentally draining. Like it can't be easy. I just want to circle back to earlier conversation in Twitch chat here, but is Vashra says, do we see the entirely new roster next season? I think it's too early to tell, but I would imagine we're going to see a different roster. What does that look like, and who do we keep? Well, there's so much more season ahead of us that it sort of...
I'm going to ask the question everybody's thinking. When does the season end?
Well, let's see. I think we're gonna see it go through the summer. I actually genuinely think we're gonna see a June tourney, we're gonna see a July tourney, and then August will be some playoff grand final tournament. Like I think Overwatch is hoping beyond hope that they have the ability to bring teams to have some form of showcase event. I think they've accepted it won't be in front of people. I genuinely believe they accept that it would be an online-only event, but I think that they want that online-only event to occur in some form of facility. I mean, we've seen this actually. The Bundesliga is watching some soccer or football for those who prefer the term. Alphonso Davies, good Canadian kid playing for Bayern Munich, and here I'm watching Bundesliga. It's an entirely different experience in a closed stadium. Yet I think for Overwatch, that's what they want. They want to have that same opportunity to showcase their best. And I think they, as a league, need it. I mean, think about it. What is it that they've been dealing with all season long? It's not the pandemic. It's the loss of players like Corey, like Sinatra, all this negative news that's around the game about players not having fun, not enjoying it. They need that sort of sparkle. And while they won't get the grand final events that we've seen in the past, whether it be the last year's in Philadelphia, the one in Brooklyn, again, I think that pinnacle event, they still want it. Where they can have a Shanghai versus Philadelphia or San Francisco or whomever.
I think if like that's what's frustrating is because what the Vancouver Titans are doing in match right now is what Owl is doing as a sports league. Mm-hmm. They like, to be very grim and to be very dark, they are plummeting, right? Like the Seoul matchup had 15,000 live viewers. That's nothing, right? This is Seoul, right? Like, this is probably top 2, top 3 most popular team in the league. 15,000 people, it's not going to be enough, right? And on top of that, like if you were up late night watching that game, you saw me tweeting at the league. Like it's been months now. Their production quality had like it was just blipping for no reason. It was just glitching, and it's been months. Like these things need to be priority number one, and I don't like understand why it's not priority number one. They're not the only ones streaming, streaming live matches. Yes, most of them happen to be on Twitch, so them's the breaks, and I'm not ready to just say this is all on YouTube gaming, but I mean, definitely a part of it is, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like this is the product, and they're still trying to create all these different things, hero bands and May tourneys, and all that is just lipstick on a pig. The core product, it's breaking apart. Mm-hmm. And you and I all got together, and everybody listening here is here because Overwatch, the core of it was a great game, and we see fabrics of it breaking. It needs mm-hmm. to progress, right? And that's the biggest struggle with it right now is the competitive scene is losing interest, right? Like a lot of midway through the week, I think there was a lot of hype about the runaway Lunatic High game that supposedly may or may not happen, right? Like I said on Twitter then, like Apex was better run than Owl, and it's just it felt more organic. It felt more like I don't. This is terrible for stream because I don't exactly have the words to describe it, but it just felt authentic, and mm-hmm. like I don't even know exactly how I caught on to that because I shouldn't be watching Korean matches, right? And somebody's pointing out in the stream right now, Korean broadcasts have more. Absolutely, that's not accurate for me to throw. Only 15,000 people are watching, so I apologize for that. But I think point still stands is that it's not near the numbers that they were expecting at this point. So and it's really that struggle, and what are they doing about it? Are we seeing Overwatch dive deeper into the hole, or are we saying like, okay, we're not going to be all these things at once. We're not going to try and own China and Korea and Europe and North America West, North America East, and we're going to make all these owners billions of dollars in the next 12 months or whatever promises they make. I think they need to eat some humble pie and be more realistic with gradual improvements, right? Like when we changed to YouTube gaming, we took basically a 10-month step back mm-hmm. in technical quality, but you have to sell, long-term YouTube gaming is going to be better for us because YouTube's going to promote us. It's the biggest broadcast system in the world, right? So like you have to sell long-term and go like, hey, right now though, the next 6 months, we're not as good as Twitch was last year with the all exclusive pass.
Well, but so on the broadcast side of things, I think it's quite apparent that there was many assumptions made and quite likely some false assumptions made as to the amount of sort of credit that they had to take up viewership over from one platform to another, and in turn not give them the same quality product. And that quality product could be the quality of the actual production. It could be the quality of what me as a viewer was able to receive. Like how many people went and invested, their own money into essentially emotes. And now those are That's gone. You don't even have access to them. You can't bring them over there. I essentially lost all my money there. Yeah, I can use them in other streams. Like for all of you watching us right now, you can spam all the previous, Overwatch League Twitch emotes in our chat, but that doesn't carry with it the same value when you're watching something like YouTube gaming. I'm not against the fact that they switched. I mean, I would imagine Google came in with a whole bucket of cash, and that bucket of cash was probably bigger than the bucket of cash that Twitch and Amazon were providing. Or is it possible that sort of, in the grand scheme of things, the number of eyeballs on YouTube are greater than that of Twitch? I'm not talking live stream. I'm purely talking eyes. And is, Activision Blizzard thinking sort of long game, like, oh, we're now going to go and monetize our VODs and what have you and make more money that way. Like, again, I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. And to the point of organic growth, I think I've made it very apparent that I feel that the Vancouver Titans struggle with it. Like they, for one reason or another, struggle with a lot of things, and one of them is being able to organically grow this community and sort of eat that humble pie. Here's our plan. Here's what we're trying to execute. We didn't execute well. Here's what we're going to try to execute differently. Well, the same could be said about the Overwatch League. Expector came out and said, oh yeah, you know what, we kind of hoped that there would be tokens and there isn't. And by the way, if you watch through the Overwatch League website, you can get them. I've yet to get them. Like it's, they're almost making mistakes to spite themselves. And at some point you say, hey, this is how it is. This is what we're planning on doing. Here's our plans. Like, and it's, talking about the 30, 60, 90. We don't get that. And not to suggest maybe it's all that possible, but this is the opportunity that they have to show how far they'll go to keep me as a viewer. And I'm maybe not the good example because I'll continue to tune in. I've already said I'm going to tune in on Friday to watch the Vancouver Titans play at 10 a.m. if I can.
I think the frustrating part for me is, and this is going to be very meta for the listeners right now that are on live. Like we have 11, 12 people streaming right now. We are not rock stars. Mm-hmm. To say the least, right?
What are you talking about? I'm totally a rock star. If it wasn't for those production problems, when we had thousands of people tuning in.
So that's exactly the thing, right? Like, the 11, 12, 20 people that are here with us, we love you guys. It means that you probably really like Overwatch. You probably really like the Titans so much that you want content listening from two middle-aged men here talking about bronze strats and stuff like that, right? So, but we accept that, right? Like we're not out trying to sell Pizza Hut saying like we're gonna have 10,000 people next stream, so give us a bunch of money and you'll get your money back, right? Like we understand the grind that we're here trying to build something. We think it's fun, we enjoy it, and that's gonna happen organically, right? Whether we cap out at 1,000 people, 10,000, whatever that number is, like to me personally, it doesn't matter, right? But and maybe Chris has loftier goals or something like that, but it's something that's normal, right? Like we believe that we're trying to create something good. We believe our content is good, and we want to keep pushing that out there. Right? So that's why we do it, right? In the same way, like Overwatch is good. It's a good game, right? And to shout out to Captain Awesome who's saying like there's so much negativity in the community right now. No, I get you. I think there is a difference between critique and negativity, and it's a very blurry line between the two, and I'm straddling it all the time myself, so I'm not here to criticize anybody who's trying to be negative or is uncomfortable, but the reality is like Overwatch is a great game, and I think what bums me out is it's losing steam, right? No pun intended to steam the gaming community, and that that sucks. And
just on the sort of negativity side, like I anyone who follows RSP on Twitter knows that every few months you see a tweet that suggests that there's going to be a soapbox or a TED Talk, and then no twit longers, it's 25 tweets in a row of a long conversation. I look at those as being constructive. I get that they might be critical in nature, but I don't ever go into this by suggesting, here's everything that is wrong about this. I go and say, here's everything that I feel needs to be done, and here's what I think you can do to make it happen. I don't go in and say like, magically you're going to wave a wand and suddenly, there's a community that's there or the broadcast will improve or the organization will communicate. But I talk about, how there are opportunities to make that happen. I mean, how many times much to your own chagrin, have I gone and told the Vancouver Titans, RSP is here, let us shill for you. We don't necessarily want to, but considering you're having difficulty shilling yourself, have someone join us on a podcast where they can go and, promote Pizza Hut. And they don't even pick up the phone to return that message, right? Like, I mean, again, I'm using old man boomer terms here, but that's the difficulty. And I think sort of back to that point, we're seeing that as well with the Overwatch League. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I haven't reached out to the Overwatch League that many times, but the few times I have received not even a carbon copy reply. So that's just, we're maybe small potatoes. Maybe they don't care about any potatoes. I don't know. Just is what it is. Anyhow, I don't want to spend too much time, bringing the doom and the gloom. I actually wanted to provide solutions. And so on Twitter this afternoon, I had asked all of you Vancouver Titans fans if there was one thing that you could add to the Vancouver Titans to help them, what would it be? And I was actually quite specific. I'll read the tweet here. So you have the power to add one thing to the Vancouver Titans to make them better. What do you add? Now, I also sort of followed that up a little bit later because a couple people were thinking that subtraction is a good way to add. And I guess if you add a negative, that works as subtraction. But no, I was truly suggesting you have what you have. What one thing can you go and add to them to make them better? And, I was actually quite surprised. I only received 2 replies that had any correlation to adding back the old roster, which again does not work. You can't add that's going back in time. That's a subtraction there. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, and I wish things were different, but I can't add that. So, pleasantly surprised, not everyone went that direction. The 3 sort of categories were more time, flex DPS, and then the other sort of category, it's not something so much as add, but it goes back to what sort of you and I were saying earlier, Sam, and it's sort of on the mental side of the things, is adding the confidence that they seem to lack, being able to have fun. So I wanted to actually share some of the responses here. So a friend of the show, Katrina, she's also a mod here for us and does a lot of the heavy lifting with RSP. Her response, get them together in the same location. I think that's quite fair. I mean, we've seen KSA even today, just go off on ping. I mean, Reinforce came out and said, it's a shame that, him and Suna are having to play in such high ping. And I know that the Vancouver Titans are not the only team that has that. But again, how do you showcase your abilities when you're handcuffed by something like ping? And at least that way, if you were to come in and, straight up and say, here's what we can do, that'd be cool. We got Sam, who played on Team RSP, said, I would love to take them on a hike somewhere in Vancouver to help facilitate and build relationships. That's a unique one. One, it's the hiking through Vancouver, which is one of the things we kind of wish the previous roster had done. And in fact, we had offered. I mean, heck, you were offering to take them out for dinner at one point. Yeah. Head to Korea.
We go for some Pizza Hut.
Yeah, I mean, stuffed crust?
Yeah. Depends.
Okay.
Depends. I like a mixture.
But I think the point there, it's the team cohesion, the ability to build chemistry. I mean, I sort of talked about it yesterday for those who tuned in the live stream. I talked about how when I was growing up playing competitive sports, and competitive is like youth sport, the team that I was playing with over the years, we knew each other. The chemistry existed. We almost knew what each other was going to do before we even needed to do it. Everything was muscle memory. So there's a lot to be said with that, and it's hard to develop that type of chemistry when you're in disparate locations. We talk about it as if it's just Suna and KSA. It's not. I don't think any of the players and coaches can even go within 2 meters of each other. I don't think any of them are in the same location. So that's difficult. Lauren, who joined us previously, her as Dayback Owl on Twitter, she says, a month of pure practice without matches for the boys to catch up. Too soon to talk about the players. Coordinate communication seemed to be the major issue other than ping-related issues. And I think that's the thing. This sort of then ties in a lot of the things. Is when we talk about time, this roster got brought in, was given a handful of days to go and compete. And since then, they've had 1 full week. And there are people in Titans Court flipping tables. I was trying to get them to argue today over the right way to put toilet paper onto the roller. There is only one right way.
Over or under?
Oh, it's got to be over. Anyone who puts it under, they hate the world. And if you're one of our listeners and our viewers that go sort of like, under, and it's like this, and you might say, oh, they're both over. No, that's backwards. That's the wrong way. If you're pulling from under, I'm sorry. Sam, do you agree or disagree? Like, am I?
No, I agree.
Yeah,
Definitely over.
And in fact, if you actually go and look at the patents for toilet paper, because it was at one point patented, the process, the patent shows over. Yeah.
I think the key thing for me is like if it's going under, you're kind of going up against like the wall or the whatever, and so it's like it's pre-wiping the facilities before wiping your internal facilities. So like that's disturbing to me. I don't know.
That's what everyone tunes in for: Overwatch League hot takes and how to put your toilet paper on correctly. And then the other responses here are like talking about flex DPS. It is surreal that the Vancouver Titans currently have 2 DPS players that play the same roster, and our hero pool, and functionally don't have the flex. And I am positive there is either one of 2 things at play. One, they had someone lined up, and for one reason or another it didn't work out. And I'm not suggesting that was a Hagen, because we don't know. It could have been that it was someone and that person had said no, or maybe there was a reason why they couldn't get out of their previous contract by who knows who. Or is it that the person is going to be added, but now it's just a matter of whatever time is necessary to get, I's dotted, T's crossed. I would hope, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, that players themselves have representation. There's phenomenal, companies and organizations and lawyers and the like out there in the esports space that if you are a pro player, you can reach out to and get representation. So, and then the other one, and I didn't sort of include it, it's the new ownership or new management. And new ownership, I honestly don't ever see that happening. I mean, the Aquilinis, so Aquilini Investment Group, the family, they have invested a ton of money into esports. They're not going to go and sell the Vancouver Titans. Do you foresee that? I mean, you're the business guy, Sam. You get that world more than I do. Do you envision them cashing out on just the Titans? It would have to be the entire esports pillar.
I think the only way we see that happening is if Owl looks to retract or potentially close out.
Okay, yeah, but then that's more a league-initiated decision.
That's different.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't see them selling right now. Anyway, I honestly I don't think there's any buyers, even if they were selling. So that's the other thing.
Depends on what the price is. I mean, if it's low enough, I wouldn't mind pooling together a few bucks from the TMRSP bank account.
That's true. We do have our patrons, so we can probably put together a pretty competitive bid. Yeah. But no, I don't see that happening right now at this moment.
Yeah. So Simon Fan says an exceptional flex DPS would be a great addition. Another person, Nolan, said a god tier main tank. And like, what god tier main tanks are available right now? I mean, Bumper, Fisher. Yeah, like, and I mean, can conceivably are those players, one, going to play for Vancouver, or two, available? I mean, there's still a part of me now sort of
Miro, if you want to dig way back.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a part of me that sort of goes into that world wondering, like, oh, might there be an opportunity for something like that? But yeah.
No, I think that's all just kind of trying to put more people into a room for fire. So my answer to your question is actually someone or someones with actual OWL experience. In an ideal world, like everybody at their jobs from content, in watching the players and even watching the coaches, like imagine everything's new, right? So when we go from I won't talk about basketball today. I'll talk about college football, right? College football, NFL.
I do love college football.
It's very different though, right? Like people love college football. People love the NFL. Sometimes those people aren't overlapped, right? Some are diehards on one end and not the other. Mm-hmm. But they're very different games, right? So I actually am a very nominal football fan. So correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is, someone who's college, in a great college system might not necessarily translate to the NFL because it's just very different, right? And so in the same way, and this is not a knock on our coaching staff whatsoever, so please don't clip that and just take that away. But it's like, okay, whatever worked in T2, whatever worked on their grind up, will it work here? It might not, right? And there's nobody in the entire org that has experience, that has been there, done that, to be like, no, this won't work. This will work. This might work, right? And that goes down to the players, right? They could have raw mechanical skill, but when you translate over to the pros, like I think Jake brought up a great point today where he's like, it's not always about who's the best in each fight. It's, you have to pick the right fights, because no fight is fair, right? Yeah. Everybody's looking for an advantage any chance they can get. And so that's a very different professional experience versus, you and me brawling in pubs, right? So from that perspective, from a player org perspective, even if we look at, you can talk about Luminosity, you can talk about our favorite firefighter, you can talk about whoever you want to talk about. None of them had really experience building an org, right? So you can pick and choose. If you want a player that has AL experience, that'd be great. If you want a coach or an analyst or advisor who has AL experience, great. Management that has AL experience, great. Somebody who can come in and calm people, whatever position they're in, and be like, it's going to get better. I've seen it get better. Right now, it's everybody's a rookie, right? We're telling each other it's going to get better, but is it really? Do we know that? Have we seen it? Right? Like, and again, not a knock on anybody, but everybody's new. How do you build something great when everybody's brand new?
Oh man, you got me bummed when you said our favorite firefighter, because that is some deep meta stuff. If you are watching this stream right now, there is some meaning behind that. We're not going to actually go and pull the shirt up or anything like that to reveal the story, but
we'll just leave it at that. But like, to me, like that's really what this org's lacked for a while, and honestly, that's why the org even did well in the beginning, is because these guys, even though they were new to OWL, like Pajon had OWL experience, right? Like different people, and I'm not talking about like we have to have the best, although the best is preferred, right? But beggars can't be choosers. But it's like I racked through my brain as you asked that question. I'm like, who has the most experience working in OWL? And I came back to like Tim and Alfred. And love those guys, but they weren't in the industry.
Yeah,
right?
In the current organization, that's it. That it truly is. It's none of the players, because the players themselves are new to Overwatch League. Not necessarily the competitive scene, be tier 2. You look at the coaching staff, and essentially from Second Wind, they have some maybe connection to the Overwatch League. But yeah, you're right. It's the someone like Tim, Alfred, or whomever Tim's team might be, if there is a team.
So like that's my struggle, and like I think my frustration is like our roster right now, I feel like is being used as martyrs, right?
Really? Like
that's
in so much like I don't know the martyr.
So the martyr bit comes in because we need to field the team. So it's like, true. Okay, we're going to make you guys pro players, but are we putting them in positions to succeed, right? Oh. Like this could be I don't know the contract, so this is speculation, but if this is the 6 months to ride out the season, they are playing for their livelihood, right? And everybody's a rookie. So it's like survival of the fittest, in where there's nobody that's actually a mentor or a veteran, even though I guess Overwatch is a relatively new sport, 4 or 5 years old, right? Sure. But like, if this doesn't go well for them, if Karkar, can't perform up to OWL expectations, when is he going to get that next offer? Is he going to have to go 5 steps back, right? Like I think I might be stealing into your book a little bit, but like Solman Sue, like he was a top 3 Zarya this time last year in the world, right? He's not getting tons of offers, right? And that, like, it goes by very, very quickly, right? So if these guys don't perform well, it could be a year or 2 before they get another opportunity like this, right? And that's scary to me, considering, like, from our perspective, we just want a team to watch. So if they're bad, they're bad. If they're good, they're good. So that's really where I'm going with the martyr thing.
Okay. So now I do get that, but what were the other options? Like, unfortunately, there's one drastic option, which was no team. That would have been bad for all sorts of people,
Well,
including
I think
me.
hindsight's 2020, but I think even getting some season 1 Al guys,
Well, okay, sure,
that weren't playing. Bumper's the only one that comes to mind, but I don't actually mean Bumper, right? There's a lot more
get
there.
the alumni team out.
Alumni team, get a mix, right? So that Shredlock has someone to learn from. Miro would be an example, even though I know it's Korean roster, Genji, blah blah blah. And again, it's not a perfect example, but just we're building systems, right? Yes, the team won't be good, but there's experience there.
So like an XQC.
Even XQC would be
another good Canadian kid.
It'd be an upgrade. You know what I mean? Like just someone that isn't, because right now, the casual fan that tunes in to watch the Titans goes, gee, they're not very good. And the more angry fan will go, hey, Shredlock, you're not very good. That can't be great to experience as a first-time pro. Like, you grinded for the last 3 years. You gave your life to this game. You show up and you finally made it, and everybody hates you. Right? Like, it's hard, right? Like, at least with XQC, I'm not talking about gameplay anymore, right? Like, XQC, he doesn't care if you hate on him.
Oh, no,
he gets haters every day.
But
right?
I don't know if the Titans could afford him. He makes some serious coin on the...
So like it's just different when you're a raw rookie, right? Like, there's a reason that we'll talk about the Canucks, right? Like, when the Canucks get draft picks, we dip them in the system for a couple of years, right? Like, we don't, unless you're exceptional, we protect them, right? And even with our all-stars like Hughes and Pedersen, like we set the expectations. Like, I don't know if they're going to make the team. Maybe if they're really good, and then we'll give them a chance. Like, that kind of set the bar lower versus like, no, you're going to play 25 minutes a game and you're going to be on our power play and you're going to be expected to have 65 plus points.
Yeah. To the point of the experience, I think actually I agree with that. I think there is that lacking piece. And I mean, let's go back, like, rewind. Start of the season. What was it that Alfred said? Oh, we're bringing in some guys that, have this experience, can sort of lead by example. He even referred to the Titan or the Canucks example of who's in the room and can show the young kids how to be a pro. And, you're right. I think there's that piece in this sort of new world is still missing. And, we sort of, we joke about XQC, and I know Ravenel had said like XQC and Hard Blue. I mean, there are all these options that might be out there. Now, the options themselves would want to have to do it. I don't know how many would say yes, and considering the circumstances. But right now, I mean, this roster has 6 players. If we were actually chatting about this on RSP Cord while we were watching today, like how do you shake things up? How do you mix things up? And I'm not saying like any particular player needs to come out of the lineup, but the only thing that can be done at this point is the 6 players that are on the roster just simply switch seats. Like, okay, so Suna, your support, Karkar, your main tank, Shredlock, your flex DPS. I mean, that's not realistic either. Like, I think maybe the opportunity...
actual mystery heroes.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was actually the comment. You missed it yesterday. My brother texted me and said, man, the Vancouver Titans looked like a team playing mystery heroes for the first time. And then RSP Cord voice comms, I tell them that, and they're like, oh man, that reinforces why Lightforce should be the new GM. He's the master of mystery heroes. Anyhow. So, okay, Sam, let's argue that you and I and Omni, the 3 of us just got put in charge. What would we do? Like, what would we do? Here, and I'm not talking about us as coaches. I'm actually talking about us as sort of the management of the team. So, like, we come in and we have the same ability that, Tim Holloway and his team have to make decisions. Is it that we're just going to go in and try to find some leaders that can show the new roster how to perform, how to play? Like, what is it that we do differently now?
I think in terms of player personnel, like one question I raised in game chat is who's the shot caller, and I think it was decided that Shredlock was the shot caller. But it kind of seems pretty clear to me at this moment anyway that that Shredlock is playing on a different wavelength than the rest of this team, which isn't to say that like everybody else is on the same wavelength. They might all be on different wavelengths, but it's clear. Like I think there's one play in Rialto where he basically ulted and then hopped back because he realized nobody was with him.
Yeah, well, there was also, I mean, today Shredlock went King Kong like on Volskaya.
Yeah,
he popped his
yeah.
ult and then just sort of hung out. Like, not entirely sure why.
So like I think there's a personality trait thing here where it's like, okay, who is the leader of this team, or leaders? There might need to be more than one, right? So like that would be kind of my emphasis on what, and it's both things, right? You could do leadership both ways. You can either inject it, which means, you know, new player with experience. I don't have like a list of free agents in front of me, so it's not like clearly I prepared well for this, right? So like that could be one way to go, whether that person is playing or not. Like somebody that comes to mind that some people call washed or whatever is Toby, right? So Toby, what he does for Soul, I think goes beyond just what his Lucio does, right? Like I think he brings a lot of experience and leadership, even if it's quiet, of been there, done that, right? So Toby is a good example. Whatever our version of Toby could be, that could work. The other way is, as you have someone like that, how are we building leadership within the team? How are we getting someone who's as talented as Dalton to speak up? Because you can see sometimes Dalton is really trying to clutch. He's really trying to carry. Well, right, and
almost to the detriment of him, and
almost to his detriment, and that's why people are also saying Dalton's feeding, right? And I completely agree with Siren Song, who said in chat, like, you know, usually we don't have the DPS shot call. I get that. But right now, just, you know, from my very limited bronze vantage point, like his game sense is a step above everybody else, right? Like, you know, he was backcapping in our first game and, you know, he's trying to engage in fights that, you know, frankly speaking, more of the team should have engaged with him versus being passive or whatnot, right? And that leads to a feed when it's the right time to engage and you're the only one that engages, it becomes a feed, right? So like, how do we grow him as a leader on this team? It doesn't mean he has to be the shot caller, right? But how can he express what he sees to the rest of the team who might not be at his current level, right? Like that's how we grow organically. That's going to take time, right? And I'm not saying this isn't what they're doing, but these are really important traits to me, right? And that stuff to me is going to be help each of these individuals be successful regardless of their long-term future with the Titans, right? We talked about that at the beginning of the season. Like, we're trying to build these people up as individuals, right? Like, we had some pretty lofty expectations, which is, you know, it brings a smile to our face to think back about it now. Yeah. But like, I think those goals should still be there, right? Like for like the goals for Karkar is like, how can we help him be stabilized? Know when to engage, know when to step out, know when to be aggressive, know when to be passive, right? All of these are individual things that we can work on, but like in game, like these leaders need, like they need to have the right amount of responsibility and pressure to do that for one another and for themselves.
Super Sore says maybe he can be our Kawhi Leonard, but I don't know. Was Kawhi a shot caller, like a leader? I mean, he was a weird dude. I know that much. He's anonymous. So like, he's either just a completely weird freak or he's a complete genius, and he might be both, right? But like, my sense of Kawhi Leonard is that he's actually a lot more normal, and that's his brand. Being quiet is his brand. Being a fun guy is his brand. He doesn't care for media and stuff like that. So he does his version of Marshawn Lynch or whatever. I'm dropping sports references all over the place here. The Marshawn Lynch is the I'm only here so I don't get fined guy. He also
So he's a little bit like that, right? Yeah. But I think internally he did help the team grow, right? He gave them this like, you know, this guy's been there, he's done that. If we follow him, we'll be all right, right? And so like that could have been like, you know, season 1 Spitfire people, right? And I know Soul Dynasty are saying no, like, because they have their own frustrations with that. But I think pedigree and experience are really, you know, undervalued. I don't want to say undervalued because I think it's also circumstance. Yeah. It's not like these people grow on trees, right?
Well, no, and so like Ramnol has said, like the high ping situation could have been avoided. Pretty sure there are projectile DPS off tank players available in NA. You know, and this. I come back to this thought, and I don't know what the answer would be. I believe the Vancouver Titans that we see right now identified a group of people that they wanted to sort of run the organizational side of the team. And that's the sort of the crew from Second Wind. And then they also, that in that instance, needed players. So knowing that they needed to go and sort of identify players, there is a part of me that wonders if someone like KSA and Suna were identified as almost the trial. Like, we're curious about what the future holds for these guys on top of the others that we've picked up. Because, yeah, I think it goes to that point. Like, the ping is going to be an issue for as long as the pandemic exists. I know there's, like, in Titans Core, people talk about, oh, if the organization really cared, they'd have these players here.
That's not realistic.
No, not at all. It's like, oh, they flew a team to Korea. Yeah, they had a bunch of Korean citizens return to Korea. It's a lot easier to go home where you hold citizenship than it is to then enter a foreign country. On top of the fact that, like, I'll use Canada. Like, right now, like, how do you get someone into Canada? There are very few flights that actually come into Canada internationally. Two, presuming you can get the visa to actually enter and perform your job, you then have to isolate yourself for those 2 full weeks. And yeah, okay, ping won't be an issue, but you're going to go and put, someone who's quite young and somewhere else in the world and bring them here. We've already gone through that song and dance and already agreed, I think, collectively as a community, that wasn't a good experience. And yet then we're going to go and suggest it is again. Like, it's, yeah, I mean, that unfortunately, that boat sailed and we are living with sort of the aftermath of it. So back to that point, might there be? There might be, and I don't know what the decision-making process was in going the route that they have, but I would like to think that the plan was more about next year. Mm-hmm. Not so much this year. Like, this year was a need, but next year was the identifier. Anyhow.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I almost said Wizards coach. One of the Justice coaches mentioned in Reddit that it's extremely difficult to get a player contract. It's not just like, oh, Bumper's free, let's get Bumper. He'll be here tomorrow, right? We're playing on the internet anyway. He can be here in 6 hours, right? Like, it's not that simple. So, and we have to look back at, one more step through memory lane, right? Like, I believe that at the point when we were sending the team back to Korea, we were not giving up on the roster. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't like, let's send them home and then leave them there. Right. So even at that point, we're talking mid-March, we were still planning to go ahead with the roster that we had. That means that somewhere between, maybe the Chengdu match and to when the new players got signed, they had that much time to build a completely new team with a completely new staff. Like, even work visas don't get issued that fast. So I think behind the scenes, love them or hate them, some people have worked incredibly hard to even field anybody, right? Even if they were trying to sign you and me, it wouldn't be easy, right? Like,
what are you talking about? I can't cheat. Like, give me the league minimum. I'm good to go.
But even then, we'd be like, oh, hey, like,
actually, you know what? If they gave me the league minimum, that wouldn't be enough. I get paid more in my day job. So there.
Exactly. And then you'd be like, oh, do I need to get a lawyer to check in with this? So you start Googling like esports lawyers, like 4 of them show up, 3 of them don't respond to your email. And like, that's going to take 5 days, right? Minimum, presuming everything's great. Yeah. So like, the fact that we have a team right now is a miracle. It's not the miracle we asked for, but it's actually impressive when I'm, objectively looking at it. Yeah. So there's that. The fact that, why do we have 2 flex DPS players? Like, well, I mean, not flex, two hit scan DPS. That at least they're the right positions, right? Like, it's asking, like, why do we have 2 left wings and not a right wing? I don't know. This is who we could get.
Yeah. Oh man, fun times. I think it's a good time to point out as well. So if you happen to actually subscribe to our Twitch stream, you get access to an emote, which ties into podcast lore. And yes, I am shilling for our podcast right now, but it ties into what I want to talk about next. The Vancouver Titans roster that we once knew is now finding its way back into the league. You brought up the Washington Justice earlier, and they have signed 2 former Vancouver Titans to a 14-day contract, which apparently has been something the Overwatch League has had available for some time, but has only decided to now, pull the curtain up to show that it exists. So both Janu and Stitch signed a 14-day contract with the Washington Justice. The explanation was to allow the players to determine if this is what they truly want to do, play on ping, play from distance, play with the roster. I'm going to not suggest that there's not part of the team that's also sort of organization saying, like, let's see if this will actually work. So it's not all on, oh, we're grateful for the players, but it's a great angle to play. So that's happened. We had Slime. He's joining Seoul, and this weekend got into 0 matches. I mean, I get it.
Contract stuff.
Yeah. And then pending league approval, the San Francisco Shock are entering the Twilight Zone. That's right. Twilight is playing with the Shock. And, people are like, why would they go and get Twilight? If there's one thing I know about great teams are always looking to get better. And if the San Francisco Shock are sitting there like, yeah, we're good, we don't need Twilight, I can assure you that's not how great teams get better. Great teams look and they're like, yeah, I want all the talent. Give it to me. And they'll hoard the talent that they need to be successful, so long as it works in the constraint of the operation. So if there's a salary cap, roster limit, what have you. So I think it's a great pickup, and it's going to be scary watching like Twilight and Moth, and then oh my goodness, when does Haxel sign with New York?
Monday.
Yeah. I mean, my belief it'll be on Wednesday after we record the episode, so we can't actually talk about it, because I think the Overwatch League operates around RSP.
Probably Wednesday.
Yeah. Which is, then again, anyone subscribes to us on Twitch gets access to our Wednesday emote. Ah.
Yeah, but that's just about everybody, right? We know Jaehong's taking a break. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really hoping that Solmin Su can land somewhere, presuming he wants to. I mean, my heart goes out to him the most.
I think, yeah, like SMS he was streaming, and one of the things that came out is I guess he had received an offer, but he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to take it. Now, he didn't say with whom the offer was from. Like, was it, Overwatch League might have been tier 2. Like, we don't know. But like, you could, the way his words were, it's like I have a bunch of question marks in front of me, and I'm not entirely sure the direction to which I want to follow. Whereas someone like Twilight was quite explicit, I want to get back in. Janu, I'm quite explicit, I want to get back in. Haxel, not as explicit. Haxel was, I want to play, but then he talked about how he doesn't like sort of where Genji is in the game, and the way the game sort of treats Genji, so...
Here's the Valorant signal. Mm-hmm. Where's the twit longer?
Fisher? I mean, he's a Vancouver Titan, formally, so I wonder if there's a team that takes a flyer on Fisher at this point. And that's whether or not there's any truth to any of these rumors around them. It's a tough spot for someone like him.
Yeah.
So
it's I don't want to curse him, and whatever he does, I hope he does it well, but I think it might be tough for Fisher to land with the team now. Just part of it is opportunity. I think most teams are pretty satisfied with where their main tanks are at. Mm-hmm. And part of it is his resume. It's just like, is it worth it? Whether trouble follows him, or he follows trouble, whatever it is, like that's hard. And there's also so many upcoming main tanks, right? Like we talk about, just this coming year, like how many main tanks have been impressive. So many names come by my head, and now I'm just losing them. But Houston's a possibility.
Well, so but this then ties into sort of how does that work? Like, that means that there's that acceptance at this point of anyone that you were to go and sign. A North American team that signs a player in Korea is likely going to be accepting ping for the foreseeable future.
Houston was also right up to the whatever this artificial owl cap was, right? They had to get their players to retire just so they could get enough to squeeze in the last guy.
Yeah, cool, Matt. Actually, speaking of San Francisco Shock announced the departure of Architect. Has it been confirmed that Architect is now going to the Spark? Like, have the Spark come out and said he's coming to that? Like, so the San Francisco Shock announced the departure of Architect, going to his contract has been transferred to another Overwatch League team.
I think it's all but confirmed. I think first of all, I think the other Al news, and now we're just biting into the episode. But Bazzy's retired.
We'll talk about stuff. I mean, so did
Bazzy's retired, so that's the spot open right there. Secondly, with all the X6 history, like and like the team with the Spark, like absolutely adore Architect, right? Like I've never seen such public pining for another player on another roster ever. And so I think it was a situation where it's not like the Shock wanted to give him away, but they were offered blank, don't know, cash considerations, Pizza Hut vouchers, whatever. And, Architect also wanted to be there, and they said, so be it. We have Ans, we have Striker, we have Rascal, and we have championship swagger. So, peace.
Captain Austin's talking about how they had Houston had hydration on main tank. I talked about this yesterday. Hydration looked pretty good on main tank. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? You have a flex DPS player who can also be flex tank. Like, how's hydration on a support game? Like, talk about like all around, toolbox type of player.
It's almost as awesome as your main tank being a Lucio main. Crickets.
Oh man, it's been fun. Thanks for joining. Thanks for
no worries,
sending in the reinforcements. It was good because you'll notice that since you've been here, the stream has yet to crash. Like,
you mean since I crashed it initially?
Well, were you in the process of joining?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, yeah, no,
like I crashed before.
Yeah, for one reason or another, whatever it was, my computer did not like it whatsoever. It went and hard crashed. Like I had to do a hard reset to make things happen. But hey, NA production is what it is.
We got to do what we got to do. We're still in quarantine, so.
True. That's true. Hey, look, Restream just congratulated me that we received 100 messages today with Restream chat. Thank you, Restream.
Sweet. And thank you for 100 messages.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, we're going to go for an hour. We went a little bit over that, but hey, we had that hiccup in between. We will be back on Tuesday night when we record our regular episode. For those that can't tune into the live stream on Tuesday, rest assured that will be shared via the regular channels, our podcast channels. Wednesday high noon is when that episode goes live. And if you're looking for all the exclusive news that you can find out about the Vancouver Titans, tune into our podcast because it guarantees you'll find out about it the following day. Just the way things are. If you want to support the podcast, the easiest way you can do that is click that follow button here on Twitch. Follow us on whatever podcast application you happen to listen to podcasts on. Any support you can provide, whether it be through a subscription, Twitch Prime subs, they're free. You get one per month, and if you don't actually use it, you're allowing Amazon to have more of your money without sharing it with others. Bits are possible. Drop a penny. Sam needs pennies.
What's a penny?
It's this thing that they still use in like the United States, and I'm told they're pretty cool. We actually gave my daughter all the pennies we had, and they're in like her little, she got this like piggy bank thing. So baby forces all the pennies.
You need to give her like a $2 bill.
I actually don't know if I have a $2 bill anymore, or like a $1 bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, us Canadians that remember when loonies and toonies were actually paper money up here. It's just crazy. But yeah, no, thanks for everyone for tuning in. You can follow us on social. It's at Ready Set Pony. You've been seeing it cycle through on the left-hand side of the overlay. And join our Discord if you want to take part in the conversation. It's like the quieter version of Titans Cord with heavy-handed mods like Sam.
I'm a mod? Why did you do that?
Exactly. See, it's way heavy-handed. But to join Discord, it is discord.io/ReadySetPwn. So, on behalf of myself, Chris at Lightforce, Sam at Another Sam Chan, and the Missing in Action, but you'll hear him again on Tuesday, Omni at OmniStrife. I'm going to sign off this live stream, this post-match review, by one, thanking all of you for tuning in, having a conversation with us, but those magical 2 words you've been waiting for are catchphrase.